Hello. Hi. How's it going? It's another day. I got my spectacles. I got these on. They help me with. I haven't worn them in a while. I found them again today, and I was like, oh yeah, these are great. They help with my eye dryness and a bunch of other stuff. Well, not dryness necessarily. Like, what's the word? Eye fatigue. Staring at a blue light all day. Not good for you. Hence these. So, it is hot, and I'm wearing a sweater. But it's okay. We're okay. Alright, today I have 631 questions to answer. It's gonna be a long one. I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna hang in there, we're gonna finish this, and this is gonna be worth it. We're investing time into this tool in order to make it so the actual interface has a accurate descriptor of every single function, purpose of the functions, and also for buttons and what they do on the UI facing side. No questions on the UI backend, which is like not UI backend, like literally it's UI, but like UI elements. So it's like a variable that holds like fucking like I don't need to explain why a button is pink. You know what I mean? Like, like that's basically it. So that's essentially the goal today. Is basically do that. I've been working on the compression tool too, which is cool. I have this right here. I'm gonna be adding this tool to the application too eventually. It's gonna be a little bit before I do it, because the only challenge with this is SMB. It has, the only way this works is through SMB, and there's another part of the workflow that I still need to add in relation to like the entirety of all this stuff and like how this works. Like the UI actually isn't going to be the final actual UI of the application itself. Like I doubt people are going to use the UI for the application all that much. They might for some stuff, but not for everything. They actually might be using it for the compression tools more than anything else. And so, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting fucking. I'm already starting to think of different ways things are gonna fuck up. I have a long way ahead of me. It's gonna be a long next 2 to 3 months. I'm basically trying to finish everything in the next 2 to 3 months for the 1.0 version. That's my goal, is to finish the actual software part within the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm gonna move on to hardware. Essentially, that's the goal. So let's get going. PM is my next re-up. Not bad, not bad at all, not bad at all. I'm gonna push that up a little more. I am curious, actually. What day is it? It's Friday today? Shit. We're on day 3 now. 208 sessions. Favorite mama was Sonnet. I am 19 million tokens in for my life. All time. 5 million for the week. I went down for the week, to be honest. I needed it. 9.7 million for the last 30 days. What it doesn't make sense to me. Wait a minute. Alright. I didn't record any of that. I just realized that. That's frustrating. Alright, I'm going to do a quick recap again. Fuck. So, in a nutshell, what we're doing today is we're continuing. We're doing 631 questions today. 631 questions to answer. It's going to be a long fucking day. And I'm just going to hop in, dude. I don't want to do another introduction because I didn't record the other introduction, so I'm not going to do it like that. I'm just going to basically make a little marker, a little note there at the beginning. 631 notes today, questions today that I have to answer because of through the LLM agent workflow systems that I'm doing. So that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, so I love my fucking shortcut for the dangerously permissive thing. I call it talk dirty. Dangerously bypass permissions. And then I go like this. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. It's the morning. Good morning, Claude. Well, not morning, it's afternoon. I wake up late. It's okay. Anyway. Let's start with the questionnaire. Let's go. Hit me! Alright, I bypass permissions. Let's go for it. First one. Wait, what? I need more context. Confirm move to trash, true. Confirm permanent delete, true. Yeah. Wait, what? No, on the contrary. Alright, let's go like this. So, on the contrary to this question here, don't give me the response. I want to discuss this, okay? I need some context, but don't give me the answers, alright? I want to be answering this, okay? I'm taking this as like a personal test for my repo. So, this should not be true. It should be doing all this stuff every single time, but it says true right after. So, confirm move to trash, true. Confirm confirm move to trash, true. Confirm move to I think these are just default variables that are just set, but I think every single instance that it actually calls these, it's actually set to false already. So then that way it can be set to true in the move functions. It doesn't need to be this verbose. I'm on Opus, that's why. So essentially these are set to true because they are only ever used whenever they are true. Which is basically the same exact thing, it's just that there's an extra boolean involved. Like a boolean layer where like the logic already dictates that it's true when the decision has been made, and these functions are only ever called when that's actually true within So my answer in my own words would essentially be this. Essentially what I just said, basically. So they are always true because the instance where they are called, they are always true. It seems kind of a redundant true boolean, to be honest, within the actual function, because the actual gate for the boolean, the real boolean gate, is actually in the function that's calling these functions. Does that make sense? So basically it's a redundant parameter. Essentially. It should just be set to true within the function itself. Essentially, it's a redundant parameter. It should just be set to true within the function itself. Because the function that's actually calling these functions is the real Boolean gate. There isn't yet, but I hadn't even considered that. There should be more robust handling here regarding illegal characters and max length. Maybe not, but I mean that'd be worth considering. But I wanted to have the same. I was basically gonna have the OS handle that section because they already have the rules for it. It could read whatever the OS can take. So actually, yeah, there should be a fucking filter for that, huh? So maybe that'd be something that worth putting in the to-do list, to be honest. Handling illegal characters like that. That might be worth it. Might be worth it. Because the OS is literally... Because this application is injecting the variables into the OS and it won't know what's illegal or legal until after the fact. So this should actually be the... I mean, but whatever the OS is capable of, this application should be capable of. So I think those characters are not illegal characters within the OS. It's Linux. Fair. I believe we're already past 180. Did you do that correctly? You might have made a mistake, my friend. Huh, never mind. I thought we were higher. Let's add a to-do list item for this one. To-do list item for this one. With my response, I think that the Boolean that's actually within the function itself is redundant, so we should fix that. I have to talk about this one. Let's discuss this one, please. Once again, do not give me the actual answer. I just want a little bit of context and just to know if I'm in the right direction. So for this one, the way that you change the name instead of the rename, there's 3 different ways you can change the name. You can rename it by hitting the rename button, you can hit the enter button, and then you could double click the actual item to rename it. I believe that's the case for all these. Now all 3 triggers. Why aren't you formatting? You're not formatting the responses correctly. There we go. Alright. Fires on inline edit completion. So this is specifically for the double click and the enter then, not for the rename. Why isn't this used for rename? So yeah, I think that this should actually be rewired through the actual rename function. So whatever the rename function has in relation to safeties, in relation to all that stuff, there shouldn't be two lines of logic. There should only be the one rename logic. Is that how it currently operates? Is that how it currently operates, or is it actually just triggering the on item changed? And then the rename itself. I'm curious. Run it. Okay, so yeah, this needs to be running through the same rename function at the end of the rename button. The rename button is the source of truth in relation to all the safeties, all that other stuff. So we need to somehow rewire that to go through there so there's not two paths of logic. No, you're good. This is the to-do list. It should be double click and enter. They are both using the same SF. Nope. So I believe. Okay, let me answer that because this actually is a good question, and I do believe I have a badass answer for this one. I just want to discuss it before I give it false information. Okay, so we're not changing anything. We're just discussing. This is just a discussion thread. Okay. Alright, so check this out. For this one, I do have a good answer for that, actually. So, a grid. How this works, essentially, is one of them is SFTP, and the other one is SSH. The rsync stuff is happening via SSH. So you can do both simultaneously. One of them is an SFTP action. They're two separate threads. The other one is SSH. Am I wrong in that? Would they show up until they are... I mean, would they show up before they are actually set up correctly? Would they show up before they're set up correctly? I mean, is that a thing? So the app does not have any awareness that rsync is active before allowing a move. That is... How do you fucking determine that? I would have to send... you know how I can do that? I can send an SFTP request to not... To filter out, yeah, basically. To filter out the item that is currently being uploaded as it's being uploaded, and then turn off the filter right after. That makes sense. You have the path already, that's the destination. Plus the file name, that's the destination overall. The path and file name is the destination. So you could say, don't show this, you already have the variable. And then after that, you can take out the filter, just delete the filter. But that would require another function to be created for filtering files within SFTP. I would want it to be a filter that can do both. One of them that basically can not show something, but it can, the same filter can then be used to show specific things. This is another feature I need to add eventually, which is a search feature too, and I could use that function for that as well. It'd just be a matter of reversing the type of filtering that it's doing. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, it does. So let's summarize my responses and that filter function dual purpose thing right there. No! No! Undo what you just did. We're only discussing things. Please do not do anything outside of what is currently discussed. Did you delete the question too? I did not ask you to do that. Please undo what you just did. I asked you to summarize my response, and I asked you to summarize the oh my god, dude, please don't do that. Okay, what I am saying is summarize my responses, right? In this conversation, we are only discussing. You're not editing anything. We are only discussing. So in this conversation, summarize my responses for this question, and then summarize the So there currently isn't a safety for that, but I thought of something that could work for it. So there currently isn't a safety for that, but I thought of something that could work for it. It would require the creation of a new function, but it could be dual purpose. Is this currently being used anymore? I think this might be dead code. This is not for you to do anything. This is just a discussion. I want to discuss these topics. Do not take any actions. Do not write anything. Do not do anything like that. What we're looking to do is just discuss things. That's the purpose of this function, of this conversation. I think this might be dead code. Because I just created a new move function, like error handler, like, well, conflict handler, and like this whole system for that. I just worked on that recently, and I think it might have, this might have been the purpose of it, and it's no longer necessary. No. I think what actually happened is that this move to trash function here I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So this move to trash default strategy for keep both, while it's within this function for trash UI handlers, why isn't it just a parameter within the conflict handling? I believe it is. If it's not, then it should be, because that's a parameter that could be set as a default for when moving to trash. I thought I had done that. I thought I created a parameter specifically for that. If not, then it should be something that's done. So essentially that becomes dead code right after. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, so the only move coordinator should actually be conflict handler. Like the entirety of like what's currently used for move, the conflict handler, should be the only one that actually does anything. So what I think we should do is basically create a parameter within the conflict handler where for the trash, if it's moving something to trash, it can actually do keep both as default. That way it's not doing the error handling when it moves it to trash, so it keeps that variable decision path selected, because I still agree with it. Anything that's moved into trash should be moved into trash. Or maybe even just keep both. Yeah, no, that is, because it does that add one. Because it'll just keep the name and then it'll add a 1 to it, or a 2 or a 3 or whatever the number is, because that's what the keep both logic does. So basically the conflict handler for trash should have the conflict handler should have a parameter that has a keep both true or keep both false by default, and then when it's used for trash, it should be true. And then that would nullify the trash function use of this function for a move coordinator. Ah! Oh wait, this is a different one. Okay, I was gonna answer that question in relation to the. Just a heads up, you're not formatting the responses in the way that works for my brain. I requested that specifically, please and thank you. There we go. It is not. We need more robust error handling for that situation. That's an edge case that I have not come across yet, so that is something that we should definitely look at in the future, without a doubt. But that shouldn't be the case, to be honest, because while it moves to trash, it doesn't move to trash until after moving. There's a queue for the move function, though. Oh, wait a minute. No, this is used for move coordinator. This is actually going to be dead code afterwards. I believe I'm correct on that. I'm gonna get coffee. No, but I'm saying also this is for move coordinator, so this isn't actually used anymore. Besides, like, once I remove, like, based on my previous response, once I remove move coordinator from here and then go directly to the one that's just the conflict handler, this is no longer going to be necessary. Because the only purpose of this is in relation to move coordinator, and the only function that's moving using move coordinator is move to trash. Yeah, let me look into that and let me know how accurate I'm being there, please. Wait, does move coordinator use conflict handler? Coordinator use conflict handler? Yeah, so basically, so drag and drop is currently using move coordinator, move to trash is doing, then restore from trash, and internal move is doing that for the default functions, but it shouldn't even be using that. All of this should be going through the conflict handler. So like it shouldn't even be using move coordinator. That's an antiquated system. What? Conflict handler is literally called conflict handler. It's an SFTP. Hold on a second. It totally is in there. It's an SFTP utilities. SFTP ops right there. Browser and operations. Oh, no, it is using move coordinator. Wait a minute. No, that is the new one. Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad. And at the very end, the fucking... I'm sorry, move coordinator is the new one. But something else calls that. But there's like a queue buildup. Where's the actual queue builder? Execute queue. That's the one. My bad. I fucked up. My bad, my bad, my bad. So, move coordinator is the new one. My bad, dude. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, how is that possible? Alright. I got confused. So, in relation to my other question, I mean, the other question that I had about the default strategy. So that keep both default strategy is actually correct. That is actually correct. Fuck. Yeah, I need to actually be looking at the code that I'm trying to do this for. I can't be just guessing. Oh my god. My bad. Regarding BT 184, that actually is the correct way that it's supposed to work. My bad, dude. That's actually a note instead of that's an intent note instead of an actual ticket. So that should actually just be that is literally how it works. So default strategy is none by default. And then basically we're talking about question 5 right now, not question 6, okay? So the only one that actually uses the default strategy is move to trash. That's already set correctly. So yeah, that's my bad, dude. You can actually remove that ticket and then just note that this is my intent. That's important. That's why it's important to fucking discuss this shit. Holy crap, dude. Alright. After a folder merge, the source folder is queued to trash. If the merge partially fails midway, some children moved, some didn't. The source folder may still contain unmoved kids. Okay. Okay, so you're technically correct here in how this functions. So, in a nutshell, you're right. There isn't a safety for that edge case. I have not come across that edge case, but this is network-based functions. And anything is possible. It doesn't need to be a error in relation to a power outage. It could be a network issue. It could be a bunch of stuff. Technically, once the SFTP command is sent, it's already being executed on the local side. The only kind of error message that I could possibly imagine would be some sort of like error that could possibly occur would be like a power outage, because well, the only thing that's actually being sent via SFTP is the actual command itself. So something would need to occur hardware-wise in order for it to actually have an error. But that being said, fair. That is technically a valid thing worth looking into. It's worthwhile without a doubt. There is no system currently handling that. The only way that I can think of would be, instead of having a queue that's created via, like, that lives in memory, it would have to be a queue that exists in some sort of, like, in the watchdog maybe, or like in a database or something like that, that lives in memory, that is like storage instead of like RAM. And then it basically pulls that queue from there. That would be a potential solution to that, where basically if there was a power outage, it could check what is the status of the move function, and then it could continue it. But I mean, at that point, it's a lot of that's a very niche edge case, to be honest. Yes. Yes, the split is intentional. So the reason for that is because there's two different types of logic paths. So merge is unique to folders. It's an entirely... That being said, the folder resolver should also have a replace option. That's something that needs... That's something that should exist as an option as well. I just realized that. I thought I had added that because there's supposed to be 4 options for folder paths. But yeah, the split is intentional. And there's actually something missing there. There should be a replace folder option as well. I don't understand why it's not coming up. Can you check in merge? In move coordinator, there should be an option for that. And also within the execute queue function, there should be something for a replace folder option. If not, then I need to add it without a doubt. That's something that needs to be done. Awesome. Fuck, I'm only a third of the way through. I'm an hour and a half into the day and I'm only a third of the way through these questions for one of the 13 Get the fuck out of here, dude. Oh, God. The dialog says in folder name, but name is the file name, not a folder path. Display bug should show the parent folder. Well, isn't name a variable, so name can be a file or a folder? I'm asking that question in general. This is not my final response. I want to discuss this. I don't understand why I would do because it's using the same variable twice. I see you, because it's using the same variable twice. Yeah, I mean, the original intent was absolutely to have a parent folder. Dude, what is wrong with the voice function here? Yeah, the original intent was to have the parent folder and then the file, or the parent folder of a folder, if need be. So there should be two variables there that are separate. Basically, the folder is the first one, and then the second one is the actual file. Let me look at that again. In folder name, but name. So there needs to be some logic there for that. What line is that in? Can you point that out to me, please? Dude, what the fuck is happening? We need to figure this out real quick. Can you tell me what line this is on, so then that way I can look at the actual code base? Please and thank you. To 52. I don't see that there, no. I thought we were doing SFTP backend first. Alright, I'll take that. You know what? Fuck it. Oh, that is the first one. Move coordinator is in that one. Whoa. Alright, so let's see. Yep. So yeah, you're right. That actually should be two different variables. So we need to have logic that is feeding that, or some sort of, basically where it's like we're receiving the path value and then we figure out the parent and then populate it with the parent. That would be the best way to approach that. It's finding a bunch of bugs. This is finding more bugs than any of my tests. This is crazy. This is finding so many more bugs than any test I could possibly make. That's insane. If the user closes the dialog, X. Today that falls through, return stick or skip. Is skip intended behavior for dialog close? Yes. Close absolutely should equal cancel without a doubt. Close. It would have been less effort to type that in. God damn it, it's just finding so many fucking bugs, dude. Alright, so let's see. Root folders is stored as a list, not a single root, correct. Used by trash path for destination to find which root destination belongs to. Question: Why a list? Multiple drive? Yes, that is correct. Multiple drives. How does the rest of the code handle operations that span across multiple routes? So, first of all, yes, there are multiple routes registered in one session. That is correct. So, to answer your other question, the way that it's handled is essentially the path, the file path. The file path points towards the different routes. It's just that they're all belong to the same media root. So it's like, it keeps thinking root. / parent. It's essentially normal Linux operations. There's no abstraction at all within the actual roots. There's no abstraction at all within the actual roots. So that's basically how that operates. There's no abstraction or workaround required. This being said, this is gonna be a future ticket, but this is something that's coming up in my head already, because this is definitely something we're gonna be talking about when we get to the trash file. But I do want to take away the responsibility of the trash creation from the actual application. I believe it should be within the watchdog on boot. This is actually something that could be handled by the watchdog automation. So that's something that's like an architectural bug / it's not really a bug, it's just optimization. But yes, I mean, but regardless of that change, I believe it wouldn't change how this function works in relation to figuring out what the trash path for destination is, because it's still using the same name. The only difference is basically upstream from that, where basically it is the actual creation of the trash. So that's not going to be affecting trash path for destination nor root folders. So I believe that, yeah. But yeah, to answer the other questions, I think I answered them. That one is, I believe this is in relation to the thread situation. Here is object which Takes no arguments. Is SFTP meant to be used as a mix-in combined with Qt widget? I believe so. This actually might be in relation to the drag and drop potentially. All right, I need to discuss this one real quick. I think this might be in relation to the drag and drop. I think that's the actual use case for this. I believe. I'm like, nah, it's not. You're wrong. You're wrong. It's like, it's the entire remote browser. Composition. So it is UI based. All right, cool. My bad, dude. I was wrong. Starts with. Where it starts with. Why starts with iteration instead of a more direct match, splitting on and picking the mount prefix? Because this is actually not in MMT. This is actually in MNT. This is actually in media. That's actually where they're being mounted. And then it goes to media, to the username folder, and then it goes into the actual trash. And there's multiple quote root. So it's not just simply working with Does that answer the question actually? I'm curious. Don't log yet. Just am I answering the question correctly there? Because that could also potentially be a ticket. Yeah, I believe that it was an artifact that was left over, to be honest. That looks like something I did when I was not feeling secure about folder path parsing. If it operates in the same exact way, it's worth fixing just to make the code cleaner. It doesn't really affect it as of right now because it does work, but technically you're right, that is, you don't really need that slash. What? Wait, which slash are you talking about? I see you. But wait, that doesn't that? Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. Wouldn't the path itself then iterate that? Because it's like you it's not, that doesn't determine the I'm gonna push back again. And feel free to push back again at me, but I'm gonna push back at you. Wouldn't the path actually determine that? So it's like, if whether or not the slash exists, both drives have a trash folder, right? That's just the truth about both of those drives. So I don't actually know how much work that is actually doing in relation to differentiating between drive 1 and drive 10. I feel like the path itself within the destination would... There's never going to be a point where the route is different from the destination. Like, in the sense of... Well, I mean, if you're moving between drives, yeah. But that's defined by the file path. I don't understand why there needs to... That doesn't actually do any heavy lifting in relation to differentiating. If it's getting confused, it would get confused regardless of there being a slash or not, because that would mean that the actual drive that it's speaking about in relation to it is fucked up. Because if I had drive 1 and then I was looking for slash trash, I would be wrong if I was actually looking for drive 10, if I didn't actually explicitly ask for drive 10, whether there being a slash in front of that or not, it would still get confused because I'm still asking for drive 1. Because both drives have a folder. Or am I misunderstanding the question? A trash folder. What? There would never be an instance where that's a thing. Hold on. Alright, setup, right. Caller asks the trash to trash a file on drive 10. Trash path for destination path. Yeah, okay. For root and self-root folders, yes. Iteration 1, root 1. Oh, but there would never be... I think I see what the problem is, but What? Wait. Now drop the... That would never be... What? The color is not confused. It passes the correct full path. The iteration inside is what misclassifies. Drive 1 is a string prefix of drive 10. That's a pure string that's a pure string issue, not a path awareness issue. But that's correct. So why would it stop? My question is, why would it stop? Well, here there's two things here I would want to push back on. And feel free to push back at me because I want to get this correct, because I don't want this to be fucked up. Because it currently works as is, so I'm more inclined to keep it, but here's and I'm more inclined to agree with you, but I just want to make sure that I understand this logic here. Why is it a string issue if the pure string itself says drive 10? Let me look at the initial function. For root in self-root folders, if dest starts with slash, now I get it. 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 All right, two things. Now I get it. What you're saying, okay, I see what you're saying there. So the slash is load bearing because it is actually the variable by which it is actually doing the parsing. So it's basically walking the values up until the slash. So that way it's name agnostic. Number two, there would never be an instance where you can actually trash from one drive to another drive. You can only ever trash within the same drive. So that's another thing to mention. But I see what you're saying, so yes, that makes sense. It is load bearing because it is basically the variable by which it is doing the actual parsing. It's basically walking the path up until the next slash, up until the next slash, up until the next slash, to keep it naming agnostic. Wait, root folders guaranteed non-empty by color. Empty non-root folders fallback. So root folders is guaranteed not empty because root folders is a list that determines the entire SF. It's like the foundation of the entire SFTP browser window. Those variables need to exist, otherwise everything doesn't work. Well, in the sense that you wouldn't be doing any of these actions because you wouldn't even be able to see any folders to actually do any of these actions in. So that in itself is the safety for that. If there is no root folders, there is no trash. All of the folders, all the drives, all the root folders are determined by two things: the group and then the trashes existing within the folders are determined by them being registered or not. There's a registration system. So if they're registered, then they get a trash. If they don't, then they're not permanent fixtures of the storage system. There's something happening with these fucking... Can self-root folders be mutated from another thread / signal while this function runs? Or is drive / registration unregistration gated so it can't overlap active trash resolution? So root folders would never change. Unless they are, the drives are unregistered. But to be honest, in which case the drive trash would still exist. Even if it's unregistered, it would not delete the trash. In which case, I think there's actually something that needs to also be determined here. There's actually a couple of bugs I just realized that this creates by having the registered drives, the differentiating between them now. The trash folder needs to not work on any drives that are not registered. So that's one. So there needs to be like a tie, because there's a invisible identification file that gets created per registered drive. It's like a JSON file. That's one. Number two is I think that would actually serve as the safety for that. But if the trash is re-added, I mean, if the red drive is re-added, then the trash, if it still existed, it would always exist. It would always be that. So I think adding that safety with the trash button would also serve as a safety for this. But once again, the root folders for trash, yeah, need to be determined by the registration status of the drive. Also, another thing that needs to exist is if you unregister the drive, you should delete the JSON file. That's another bug that needs to exist. Inside of the drive itself, the identification JSON file. But there would never be an instance where you could actually, unless you were doing like a massive delete, but even then, you'd have to move so fast to basically move things to trash and then unregister the drive. Okay, fair. Let's say in a freakish edge case scenario, that's worth looking into, because let's say it was a massive like 20 terabyte trash job, and then it's gonna take a minute to move all those files, and then you try to unregister the drive, I mean, technically, yeah, that makes sense. But by that point, the SFTP action has already been launched to the actual Raspberry Pi, in which case it's already executing. So you would have to do it faster than the actual command can be sent or requested again. So like you'd have to be actually reversed. You'd have to be unregistering, and it'd have to be so slow that when you did it, like when you did the 20 terabyte or whatever move job, it would then break that. That's like an almost, that's a superhuman level of speed. Can it occur in automated systems? Maybe. But it's such a freakish use case. I mean, sure, why not? But then the safety would be, don't unregister something graying out the action buttons as you are unregistering a drive. That would be a UI level action, and then you would also need a backend safety as well in relation to putting some sort of parameter and argument where it's like you can turn off the functions, and then you'd have to add a branching if statement at the top of the move function, every function that is any kind of action within the entirety of the SFTP server. Browser. Or any kind of SFTP action, actually. So that'd be even further upstream, it'd be connection based. Am I understanding your question correctly? And also make sure you note the other bugs that I pointed out there. Those deserve actual tickets. But yeah, am I answering your question correctly? But yeah, am I answering your question correctly? No, 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 no. Wait a second. I want to discuss that still, because there's another safety that's already existing for that trash resolution. I don't think it actually needs to be gated, because what starts up the entire sequence of everything is based on the hold on. $190 is correct, $191 is correct, but $189, I don't know. And then hold on. $190 is correct. That's good. $189, I still don't think that that's actually a valid concern. Because I think what's actually populating it is already a safety within itself, because it's based on the roots, and the roots are based on the group. So there needs to be... So that's the wrong ticket there. I don't think that's actually what needs to exist. I think what needs to exist is a check for the trash existing at all being tied to the actual registration status of the route that is being pointed to within the drive. So if that identification card matches the database entry, then it's a valid trash. And then in relation to 191, the gray out, the UI gray out, is in relation to it being registered at all. So if it's not registered, there should be no move to trash available for that. And that's the only one that should be grayed out. Everything else should still exist. Hold on, I gotta go to the bathroom. Hold on. I am hungry. Fuck. I will be back. I gotta get food, dude. I am starving. I'll be back. Sorry about that. I'll be back.